we dive into our discussion of X-Men First Class.
Name's Xavier. Charles Xavier. How do you do?
Cheers.
So much more to you than you know. Not just pain and anger. There's good in you too.
What do you know about me?
Everything. Here, you have the chance to be part of something much bigger than yourself. A new species is being born. Help me guide it. Shape it. Lead it.
The Russians have sent warheads to Cuba.
If that ship crosses the line, we will retaliate with a full response. We need your help to stop them.
So we're supposed to be the CIA's new mutant division.
They're too dangerous.
Mankind will turn on us.
Not if we stop a war.
As usual, I struggled with my setup for this new X-Men installment, this new prequel, if you will, trying to figure out what context and insight I could offer beyond what we just got from the trailer. And I settled on something a little experimental, a little conceptual, but I think if you follow me, it gets to the heart of what I really want to know, what I think our listeners really want to know about your take on this early 60s set tale of how Professor Charles Xavier, founder of the X-Men, befriended, collaborated, and ultimately split with Eric Lencher, a.k.a. Magneto. Oh, Michael Fassbender. Oh, James McAvoy.
Did you write a sonnet?
Fassbender, Fassbender, Fassbender.
Oh, no.
McAvoy, McAvoy, McAvoy.
Oh, no.
Fassbender, Fassbender.
You lost us like 8 affiliates right now.
McAvoy, McAvoy. Maddie? Michael Fassbender?
Yeah, it's Fassbender. It's Fassbender that runs away with it, but actually McAvoy is just as good. This is a fantastic movie.
Really?
Yes,
we are going to disagree for 2 weeks in a row.
Oh, it's just an absolutely fantastic film. And, you know, I'm going to turn into Gene Shalit. I am ecstatic about X-Men.
Oh, God.
It is easily the best sci-fi film that I have seen.
Maddie, stop.
In years.
Maddie,
No.
I mean, really.
Are you serious?
I'm totally serious. X-Men. First Class.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
X-Men. No, this is not 2001.
Okay.
I'm not going to go back that far.
Okay.
But I am thinking that, you know, if it's not Star Wars, if it's not quite in that league, I think history will kind of tell. I think, 15, 20 years down the road. But it definitely looms, well, it doesn't loom. It's there in its shadow, I think, of Star Wars. And what I loved about it, Adam, is that...
Okay, I'm sorry. This is where if I were you and I had said that, I had compared X-Men in any way to Star Wars, you would have jumped all over me. No. But I'm actually going to just let you go.
No, let it go. Hear me out.
Okay.
I love this film.
Okay.
I love this film. It does, and here's the reason, because it doesn't fall prey to the sins of its current action adventure brethren. I mean, perhaps because its origins are actually found in the frames of the comic. There is just this relief and breath of fresh air. That old man that I am, I managed to follow most everything that was going on during every action scenes. And not, there was not one character that had to slide underneath a sword. That's the new trick, where you come sliding underneath a sword or a car that's flying above you. And what accounts for that is in the camera work. It's just great point of view work. It wasn't just what we see, this MTV kind of stuff, where it wasn't just 3 seconds and then a flash cut. Everyone, during those battle scenes, I think you have to admit this, everyone has an arc throughout those fight sequences, and we are able to follow them just for that. And that is just touching on what I loved about this film, but that's what was so refreshing to me.
I will give you that the action scenes are actually comprehensible, and there isn't this sort of Michael Bay type of action movie distraction going on. It's not disorienting, and I do think that is a strength of the film. I like the film, and the reason I like the film, and for those who are new to the show or don't hear every show, maybe some explanation for my little setup is needed. I've been a huge McAvoy fan, James McAvoy, since The Last King of Scotland. He was great for me in Atonement, even a little movie like Starter for 10. I thought he was really fun to watch.
Oh, he's terrific in that, yeah.
And Michael Fassbender, he became part of Filmspotting lore, part of our consciousness back with the movie Hunger in 2008.
Hunger and then Inglourious Basterds.
Right.
So Sophie's Choice, kind of digressing here, who do you take?
Which is the poll question. And look, I think they're equals here. I think they really are, but the person who is more, no pun intended, magnetic on screen, it is Fassbender.
It's Fassbender.
He's the guy I want to watch in every movie.
But I
that
love
comes
that.
out.
I mean, and they give him so much fun stuff to do.
Yeah.
I love the depth of this character, which is what I don't see in these comic book films.
Yeah.
It's when he goes and we do the Boys from Brazil scene down in South America.
Yeah, there's an Argentina scene that is like something taken right out of James Bond. It should
really
just actually
is.
be an audition reel for the
It
next
really is.
James Bond.
But you know what? I mean, but this is a film that, of course, plays homage to all these other films. Of course, you get Dr. Strangelove, and there's so many other sort of.
Yeah.
You know what I really liked about it though, is there was a lot of humor here. Fassbender and McAvoy brought humor to this. They also brought layers and layers of depth to it as well. But the humor was not reliant on, we know the universe of the comics, so, we know who this is going to become, or, this character is who they're going to turn into. There was one cameo that I liked that I got. I got that joke.
Well, yeah, I think we can say it. Well, we'll say it this way. It's a very famous member of the X-Men universe shows up.
But even that, but the thing is,
I thought it was ham-fisted.
No, I didn't think that was ham-fisted.
Like
it was the only time that they kind of broke the fourth wall, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, they really didn't say, hey, you know what this is. But that's what I don't like about these movies, because they're so franchise-based. But no, I thought this film played by its own rules.
It's accessible in that way. You're listening to Filmspotting. We're talking about X-Men First Class. But to get back to those actors, that is the only real reason I can recommend this movie. I have to be honest, because I think you get to watch two really first-class actors elevate material that, for me, Maddie, is not first class. And the central relationship, though, between those two guys is the heart of this movie.
The story is fantastic, Adam. The story is fantastic.
And it all comes from that friendship. That is the basis for everything. And more important, not just thematically, but dramatically, that's what drives this entire narrative forward. And that's the only time I ever felt any tension or any real electricity, was when they're on screen together and they're agreeing with each other or disagreeing with each other. Whether they're playing chess, doesn't matter. That's the only time. Well, unfortunately, it's not enough. It's just not enough. There's not enough of them. There's actually, Maddie, there's a portion of this movie.
There is.
There's a
I
good
know where
20 or 30 minutes.
I know where you're going with
where
this.
It gets sidetracked in the Junior X-Men.
You're right.
And Eric Lencher disappears, and the movie starts to tank with him.
Hank? These are the special new recruits I was telling you about. This is Hank McCoy.
How wonderful. Another mutant already here. Why didn't you say?
Say what?
Because you don't know. I am so terribly sorry.
Hank?
You didn't ask, so I didn't tell.
So your mutation is what? You're super smart?
I'll say. Hank here graduated Harvard at the age of 15.
I wish that's all it was.
You're among friends now, Hank. You can show off.
Okay, no. It does. I'm going to grant you that. It does bog down when we're sitting around the room and everybody's showing off what type of skills that they have, and they're assigning nicknames.
Right.
Okay, that's the one time. What you need to do is just put a battle scene in there. Really, I mean, honestly, it needs to be like a 30-second battle scene. Well, so then we can see who these people are and what they can do.
And I guess, you're right. And unfortunately, though, when we do finally get a battle scene piggybacked off that, it doesn't involve James McAvoy or Michael Fassbender.
No, you're right.
So it's another 15 or 20 minute set piece without them.
It's a long film. It could be cut down to about an hour 40, an hour 30.
Yeah, but
easily.
what's always driven these X-Men films for me is that relationship, that dynamic, and the fact that it considered some of these larger philosophical and moral questions. And whenever I talked about the first two X-Men movies, I always framed it in a conversation. Yes, it's a little bit simplistic, but I wasn't surprised to hear Fassbender actually reference this at some point when making this film in an interview, that I always thought of those X-Men films as sort of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. It is this dichotomy where you have two people who in theory are after the same thing. They are after this message of sort of tolerance and civil rights, but they have very different ways of going about it, two different approaches. One's peaceful and hopeful, one's practical.
I don't like that analogy
cynical.
because I think it really sort of denigrates what Malcolm X was doing. Yes.
I don't think it denigrates, but it does simplify.
It simplifies it, yes.
Yes,
I mean,
well,
there's a period of time, yes, he was very, very militant, but...
Yes, that changed. I know, but I think most people would agree at the time there was sort of two paths you could take.
He was not a major player as well. I mean, you also have to remember that everybody knew Martin Luther King. Not everybody knew Malcolm X.
Right.
All right, I'm sorry.
Though,
we're completely going off track.
My point is simply that there was something I could always latch onto that made it more interesting than simply an action movie, even though I like the action in those X-Men films as well. So the more of them on screen, the better. Unfortunately, I felt like there was enough that didn't involve them that did lose me a little bit. And like I said, there's that long stretch where Magneto's out of the picture. The big thing, though, from a screenwriting standpoint, and I'm really surprised, actually, Maddie, especially you being Mr. Structure. And
the structure's great.
We tend to focus on movies that are simple in some ways.
This is the two brothers.
It's so convoluted.
Okay. Whoa.
How many characters do you want me to just start naming who get nothing to do and shouldn't even be in the picture? Rose Byrne, Oliver Platt. There are so many storylines going on in this film. And they could have cut about 7 of them and streamlined it down to the central narrative.
That's fine with that.
And I think it would have been a lot more interesting.
These people need paychecks as well. Okay?
That's not a good enough answer.
Well, I'm thinking if, your favorite phrase is a nobody, they could have thrown a nobody in there to play Oliver Platt's role, but it's Oliver Platt.
And I would have had a problem with it because it was a wasted character, not because it was Oliver Platt playing it.
You know what? But at the central structure of this storyline is the two brothers. I mean, it's the two brothers that go off. Well, they're not literal brothers, but
right.
It's it's as old as time, this storyline, that two brothers, they go off and then they fight. They go different directions. Mm-hmm. Are they going to love each other? Are they eventually going to diverge from each other? I think they keep to that. Where you're right is when they introduce all these other characters. Mm-hmm. And I don't mind sort of these, tertiary characters getting killed off. I mean, that's fine. I don't think Oliver Platt was going to add a lot to this franchise. But at the core, I think it actually is a really solid script. I think it goes forward. There's recognition. There's reversal. And let me say this, because Fassbender and McAvoy are terrific. They bring so much depth to this. But, we've come to expect that. But you know who else we've come to expect that kind of greatness from? Kevin Bacon. And I think he is fantastic
as the villain.
He's fantastic in this film.
Okay.
He is. No, Adam,
I don't have a strong opinion about him one way or the other. I just I'll have to top to that.
I think he's amazing. I think he's amazing in this film. And of course it's Kevin Bacon. I mean, he's the guy, of course, behind 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, and he's been in so many films. He's always been solid. Always been solid. Academy has never nominated him for anything. I hope he gets a nomination for supporting actor for this.
Wow, well, he does have a dual role. He gets to show off a little bit here. So, I mean, I think he is certainly good. I agree. He's a good actor. He's someone I do enjoy watching on screen. I think one thing that does stand out for me about the fact that McAvoy is so good here as well, because he really does stand up to Fassbender, and part of it just, let's be honest, in stature, he's much smaller. He does not have the physical presence that Fassbender has, but the fact is, he's able, because he's a good actor, to be the character who comes off as more mature, as smarter, who is more comfortable with himself. And actually, you believe him as the leader.
McAvoy really surprised me.
Yeah.
I always thought he was kind of a shrinking violet a little bit. And here he is. He
really owns the Xavier character.
Well, it's that intelligence. It's the intelligence, and Fassbender's character recognizes that.
Yeah, I think he does. But, for me, too, I guess you talked about sense of humor, and I guess I don't know whether to give Matthew Vaughn credit for going for the campiness or whether it was unintentional.
Where was the campiness?
Every time January Jones touched a control inside a submarine, I felt like I was watching a Bond movie from the 60s or worse, an Adam West Batman episode. That's what it felt like every time she did anything. She touched a button or lifted the periscope up in a submarine.
She was like the silvery character?
Yeah, she was the silvery character. But there was a camp factor. And, aside from some Austin Powers-esque line readings that McAvoy gave us with his rendition of Groovy, I know the movie was going for some humor. I didn't think much of it landed.
Oh, I actually did because so much of it did land. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, if you can buy the conflict between the two central characters, 75% of your work is done. Now, where I will agree with you is that, well, maybe they missed out on the last 25%. But watching Fassbender and watching McAvoy go at each other, even with the lines that they're given, which I don't think are terrible.
Some of them are not good.
No.
Some of them are not good.
Some of them are not good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it proves no matter what type of film it is, popcorn blockbuster, merchant ivory thinker, probably starring Anthony Hopkins, if those central leads, if their intentions and their conflicts are well defined, as I think they are in this film, that is something, that's the leash that I can hang on to.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, yes, I will grant you there's a lot of other stuff going on here that probably doesn't rise to the fore, but I was entertained enough with this film to put it, the amount of blockbusters that we've been exposed to, this is probably one of the best I've seen in years.
Okay. Well, a couple quick random thoughts. Just let me throw them out here. I don't know if you have a couple bullet points you want to mention or not, but one problem for me too, stakes-wise, as we like to talk about, the whole movie is about trying to move the world. It's the Cuban Missile Crisis. Move the U.S. and Russia to the
Which
brink
I like.
of World War III.
I know that there are a lot of...
I never felt it, though. I never could suspend disbelief and actually feel any threat, any imminent threat.
Yeah. All right. See,
I didn't feel that way.
I hate it when you kind of get under my skin by suggesting something that might have been there. But at the same time, I really actually appreciate it. I know this lives in the comic world. Not that I know the comic world at all. But that it did have a historical basis.
Yeah.
And that, so we see what they're going in. And so when we see them on that beach and we actually know we can bring our own sort of expectations to that fight. At least that's what I did. And actually they stuck to it a lot, which I really appreciated too.
I think there's also one really good moment in the script that I'm not going to give away, but at the end of the film, after the climactic showdown, there's one line of dialogue that Xavier says to Lencher that harkens back to something we saw early in the film during, let's say, the young Magneto's formation. And that's a really powerful moment, actually. That one really sticks, and it justifies the action that comes after that. I really bought that moment.
So what did you think about the Raven thing? Raven is this, she's a shape shifter.
Jennifer Lawrence
from Winter's Bone. Great young actress.
Yeah.
What did you, she has an arc in this thing.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty critical. We spend a lot of time with it.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it really gave her much to do, though. And I think that gets back to, I just felt like it was trying to cram so many storylines in that you got a lot of scenes where the dialogue felt clipped to me. It felt like you were getting a lot of two-line scenes that were there just to move the story forward. So we got to have two people say this to each other or say something really insightful that's going to pay off thematically later. It just felt clipped. But those scenes with those two guys, whenever they're together, pay off beautifully.
Yeah.
And that is why it's absolutely worth seeing. So I guess I can't say enough about how much I like those guys. They lived up to as much hype as I've been giving them on the show. So that is X-Men First Class. It is out now. If you agree or disagree with our takes, you can email us feedback@filmspotting.net.
All right, well, okay. Before we go, what would your superhero name be?
I got nothing, Maddie.
Seriously?
I'm sure you've thought about it, though. What do you got?
About you?
No, about you. I don't want to know what your name for me is. What's yours?
You'd be the Doughboy.
Yeah, thanks.
I am thinking kind of along the lines of Captain America. I would be Major Improvement.
Clever.
Yeah.
And what kind of powers go with that?
Well, I'd go around shoring up bookshelves and making sure people check for gas lines before digging in their yard. Maybe do some radon checking.
Yeah. Okay.
It's okay. Just breathe. I'm rendering you speechless right now. I harness the power of your hot air and use that fuel to power my telekinesis power and release.
I hope listeners out there have some insight, some great feedback on X-Men. You know how to leave it. Voicemail is 206-203-2463.
All right. Up next, we channel